Good
Hello.
morning. Hello. How are you guys doing? Happy Sabbath. Assalamu alaikum. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Being Power with Lamati. I'm Linnell.
I'm Marasha, and good morning. God
Yes,
bless
good
you guys
morning.
this morning, and glad to have you guys following.
Yes, we came on a little earlier last week and talked about parenting, supports and different parenting styles. And we had a lot of people give us some feedback saying that they wanted to be a part of the conversation. So we wanted to bring it back one time, rewind, and talk about the same thing we did last week so you guys can have a little bit more engagement. So, with that being said, we see you guys are coming on. So, we're going to just go over our housekeeping rules and then we will get this day started.
So, first rules: we are both associate marriage and family therapists. That we do counsel people, but our job here is not to counsel. This is solely for entertainment purposes, meaning we're here to have fun. It's educational and things like that. So, um, what else we don't? We don't do counseling.
Yes.
Always keep in mind that this show is from a Black woman's perspective, a minority woman's perspective. We don't mean to offend anyone, and if we do, let us know. And up front, we want to apologize for that. This show, however, we say, even though it's from our perspective, it's for everybody. We want everybody to feel comfortable, to come in and participate, have a lot of engagement and things like that.
Yes. So, like she said, it is from a Black woman's perspective or our perspective. We're not saying that we speak for all Black women or all minority women, but we are speaking from our perspective. There may be things that you hear on our show that may be offensive to you. We do not intend it to be offensive. But once again, it is a show where we want to be real. We want to come to you and talk about real subjects. So, we are going to be real. Once again, we're going to say how we feel about certain things. We want you guys to say how you feel as well. Good morning, Alice.
Hi, Alice. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, so we just want to make sure.
We got a first grandparent. We got a great grandma on there, and we got hi
Good
Mary.
morning, Mary. What
So
were you saying? Go ahead.
That's glad they're on here because we got grandparents coming to the show.
Oh, okay. Okay, yes, because we will be covering grandparents today as well. So, with that being said, is there anything that we didn't cover just about our perspective, that we are not doing therapy on the show? We're not telling you that what we're saying is true and correct. We're not telling you you have to do what we say. Once again, this is just our perspective. So we want you guys. Good morning, Trina. How are you doing? Good morning,
hi, Trina.
We want to make sure that you guys engage. Tell us how you guys really feel, and then we're just gonna go from there. All right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Marasha, you want to go ahead and start us off?
So to start off, last week we covered a topic and we came on a little earlier than our normal. And on that topic, we talked about grandparents and in different perspectives. Is because people had called in and asked, spoke to Linnell about grandparenting. And so we had different views on grandparents' jobs, things like that, support, not supportive, and how it's supposed to work. So we just wanted to follow up today pertaining to any questions you guys might have had or any input that you would like to add to elaborate so we can elaborate on it.
Right. And then if you guys want us to kind of start, excuse me, I guess we can just dig in and talk about because the person that wanted us to talk about this subject is a grandparent. She's a parent, obviously, and she's a grandparent now. So we were talking about just intervening, and I hate to use that word because that has a negative connotation to it. So I don't necessarily want to use intervening, but just giving advice and, giving support to your children when they have children, when they're asking and also when they're not asking, because
it's called unsolicited.
Yes, definitely. Because a lot of the time we give unsolicited advice and it's not welcomed. So that can cause a wedge between, your relationship between yourself, your child, and even your grandchild, because then your child doesn't want that interaction as much because they feel like you're being overbearing, or, you are asserting your power as a grandparent when you have no right. And I think it was you, Marasha, last week that brought up parents that sometimes are trying to make up for, when they didn't do whatever they didn't do for their child.
And so the point I was making, so we had a whole bunch of different perspectives, Linnell and I. And so because the show was early, a lot of people didn't catch it. And so the points that I believe we talked about, because I did go back and review it last night, was one, that the unsolicited advice, partnership when grandparent, meaning like sometimes it's a partnership where the grandparent is giving support, and then they're able to actually provide an opinion, and then you have the grandparent who's saying, I give support and I want you to do it my way. That's not always right. It's your way is not always the right way.
Right.
What else did we talk about? We just had different perspectives on, sometimes, it was a perspective or a conversation about sometimes grandparents will support when the child wants to go out, and their kids wants to go out. They want to go out, so that what they do is they babysit them. But then if they want to go to work, they don't want to babysit. So right. All these different things kind of came up from some of the viewers, and so we just really wanted to talk about them and see your input on there and your take, and what spin can you add on it, and tell us your thoughts on there and your concerns, even with the new generation.
Right, because one of the things that you just said that we did kind of elaborate on was parents babysitting when the child wants to go out, but not when they want to go to work.
Absolutely.
And one thing that came up for me, or that I thought about when we talked about that, was a lot of the parents, once again, that's a generational curse, or that's just because, and the reason I say that is because maybe that same thing happened for them, or maybe no one ever worked. And so the only child care they ever received was when they went out and different things. So that's what they can relate to. So that's how they built their relationship with their child. But when it comes to work, it's like, no, you're working for the man, or, I'm not going to pay for you to go work for somebody else when you're not doing nothing for me. When once again, the mindset should be, you're trying to better yourself, so let me go ahead and watch your child. But it's not always like that. There's always, a 360-degree view on everything. Some parents are just tired. Some parents don't want to see their children succeed and are jealous. And that's something that I think in the Black community, a lot of us don't want to admit, but it happens a lot in families. That parent may be jealous that that child is more successful, or trying to change that generational curse, or, change that stigma of getting a job or going to school. And that can cause conflict in the relationship as well. And I've seen that a lot as well. So it just depends on what situation you're in and how your story plays out.
And with the 360-degree rule too, when you speak about generations too, what I noticed is that something I brought up last week is that a lot of grandparents are much younger than what they were before. Because if you look at how society is changing, back then there was a time where we had a lot of two-parent homes, meaning grandma and grandpa were in a home. Most parents were together. Now, when you talk about that, we have a lot of single parenting going on, where what we call it, what is it called? Extended family relatives are playing parents. So as society has changed, what we utilize for forms of support looks a lot different. And then when you speak of generational curses and grandparents becoming younger, that creates conflict as well, because it's sort of like babies raising babies. And so there is sometimes no support within a African-American home, or any minority homes for any sake, or any home, if you think about it, because the way times have changed.
Yeah, I can agree and I disagree on some aspects, because I don't think it's changed that much, because from what I know, I don't know, I didn't come from a two-parent home. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see too many two-parent homes in the area I lived in and within my friends and my community. So I don't see that things have really changed in that aspect, because aunts and uncles were still raising the kids when I was growing up, and grandparents were raising the children when I was growing up. It wasn't parents. And then the grandparents were not, I wasn't in a family where my grandparents were together either. So that longevity was not something that I seen at all. So for me, I can speak to it because I work with individuals that have experienced that and have that support, and I know what it's supposed to look like.
Yes.
But I definitely speak from personal experience when I talk about other things, and education, obviously, but personal experience, because it's not always like that. And a lot of individuals, I think, come from a space where they don't have those supports and they've had to build them, and they just don't know how they have built them in most cases. They can't recognize, is what I'm saying, how
what
they
was
built.
done to support. And so I know for me, when you speak of longevity, I've actually had the one, and I always say this because I've been extremely blessed to have a lot of extended family members, great aunts, uncles, and things like that to help me fill in when they need to. Also, too, what I notice is that when I sit back and I look at my family compared to others, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, is that most of my great aunts, all of them were with their husbands, right? And then when we hit our generation, it was kind of different, but we always had that support of a grandma and grandpa in the house, like to support and help raise us and things like that. So, and what I was speaking of that, I see your perspective too on it. But what I was speaking of grandparents being younger, my personal experience again is that I've worked in many communities within Kern County for a long time, doing a lot of outreach work, bringing kids to school and things like that. And what I noticed is that I'm not going to just say minority homes, and multiple homes. And I don't think color, race, none of that is an issue here.
Right.
We speak about this. So let's get that straight first. Is that normally you would see a grandparents, when I say back in the day, grandparents, even if it wasn't a 2-parent home, single home, they're at home. Now you see a lot of grandparents still working, number one. They're still working due to retirement things and things changing with that. Number two, when I say younger, is that some of them might have, that was back in the day too, they had kids early. But when I say younger, they have reclaimed, and they're in a transformative era, I guess, where they feel like, hey, I need to still live too. So with that being said, that removes one level of support from the home for some parents.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I was just talking about my perspective.
I called it a transformative era. I don't even know where that came from. That was fine when I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I was just saying that for me, once again, from experience,
so different perspectives. That's what we talk about.
Right. I haven't seen that. I see the change, like you said, in the community, which is what I said. But within my personal experience, no, I know that. Once again, from my personal experience in the community that I grew up in, nothing has changed. It's been the same thing, even in my family. My grandmother was young. She always worked. She worked till she still worked. You know what I mean? Because that's just, and so, and she was that way. So for me, and being older than you, that's why I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think there has been that much of a change. It just wasn't highlighted previously, and we didn't see it because we didn't know how to recognize it, and now that we have the tools to be able to recognize it, we're able to say that this has been, common, and this has been something that has, I don't want to call it a trend, but for me and what I've seen, it's something that has not changed. It's been consistent.
It's consistent. So what I mean by reclaiming life is, I mean, back then, a lot of grandparents, and I'm gonna say specifically grandmothers, a lot of them, they worked, but they were still able to support as much. Now you see,
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying I didn't see that because I didn't have that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. So work longer, things like that. So what that happens, it takes them out the home, where you used to back then can retire earlier. Things like that have changed too. And then I think they got into that transformation era where, hey, those kind of, I would hear a lot of grandmothers say, well, I don't want to raise your kids. I'm out. Hey, grandma got a life too. I don't blame you, grandma, though. Go and get it popping and cracking. But but when you see that the shift looks different, and that's what I'm speaking of. The shift looks different. It's a different era when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think once again it just depends. It depends on
it just depends.
individual. Yeah, it depends on the individual, because I don't know. For me and my experience, and for the individuals I work with, it's just it hasn't been there for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we're lacking, that I know that we definitely need.
Is a support approach.
Yeah, absolutely. We really do. And
it takes a village to raise a child. And that's the thing we were getting at with this topic, is what we were talking about, having a village to raise children.
Yeah.
And what it looks like for some. Definitely. And so when the topic was brought up, Linnell had a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about having a village to raise a child. So this is one area that we did not touch on last week, was the fact that when you having a village raise children, you have to be kind of open and receptive to some of the feedback that you're going to get. And some people are not ready for that. And then sometimes it's like a double-edged sword. That's what I call it. Because sometimes you might be putting in unsolicited advice, and then sometimes it might be needed. So how do you make that work? Because it's a double-edged rule when you're seeking support from extended family members and grandparents. So that's what we're talking about here, having a double-edged sword. What's your take on that? She said, "Amen." Grandparents is G-parents is a blessing to have, and supposed to be one of the teachers of the family. The Palmer family was blessed to have both of them for guidance and love. So yeah, it is truly a blessing, but the double-edged sword. So that's what we talk about, villaging. I call it villaging. What is your take on villaging?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, as I spoke of last week, so I definitely believe that it takes a village. I think the parent has to be receptive, not only the parent, but the grandparent. And I think for a lot of people, that's what they don't understand. A lot of people are not receptive to a lot of things. They don't want to listen. And a lot of people are blind to the fact that, I know we say, oh, I don't want to be like my mom, I don't want to be like my dad, but a lot of the time you are, and you have to really work hard not to be like those individuals if you don't want to be like them, because those traits, I mean, we are our father's children. We are our mother's children. So a lot of the time, if your parent is stubborn, then you may be a little stubborn, but you need to be cognizant of that so you can be receptive to the things that individuals are telling you. So when we speak of a village being able to help you, that means that you're not, for me, and this is my opinion once again, because I've had a different experience. My village is not only my family, because I didn't have family that gave me that input. So for me, I made my village, and I don't feel like a village is just family. A village can be individuals, at your child's school. A village can be your friends if you feel that they have, positive supports in place for them and they're able to provide them for you as well. Not just somebody that's just talking and telling you something, just because they're older than you, or just because they're a part of my family, I'm not going to listen to them, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So for me, a village is very important because it encompasses a lot of different things. It's going to encompass me reading, me doing my own research. It's going to encompass me, once again, finding mentors that I can get information from. And if I do have those family members, then yes, they will be included as well. And then even the negative people, because everybody, has a different influence, and need those negative influences as well to be able to learn from those and be able to see, maybe some things that you don't want to do or things that you don't want to go through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I was going to say, I like that answer because that's how I see it too. When we talk about support systems, times are changing. You have to tap into who's going to be there before you, who's going to be beneficial for your children. However, I think that sometimes some people might see some things, right? And you might have 5 people there and they provide you with unsolicited advice, and then we don't take it because we too stubborn. And it's like, I don't want to be told what to do. And then some people get very protective in this bear mode that these are my children. I'm going to do it how I want to do it, right? Where it could actually be something you can benefit from when raising your kids so they can have the best outcome as possible. Then I think it's on that end where sometimes it can be too overbearing. You need to do A, B, C, and D the way I want you to do them. And then it's like, well, we both got the same result here. I just tied my shoe differently than you. But at the end, it came out with the same result. You see what I'm saying? So the open-mindedness comes into play when you're allowing different people to support you with raising your children. I know it's a lot of times, too, we're afraid to ask for advice because we want to seem like we got it all, right? So we don't want to go and say, hey, I'm falling in this area. Can you show me something to help me do something differently, or what should I do? I think too, that's something that I notice a lot when you see people raising kids. It's just like, these are my kids, and they don't ever want to have that accountability that they did something wrong to their children. It's okay to ask for help. So I think for me, it's just a healthy balance and boundaries. Meaning, when you have somebody come in and help you with your children, it's just boundaries of, okay, well, this is what I will be doing for them, and this is just your role here. And if you want to talk to me about something, let's not have that conversation in front of the children. We can have it to the side, so that way they don't hear it and, have an influence or perception or have a hand in it to feel some type of way by either or.
Right.
Because sometimes when you ask for advice or you put input advice in front of the kids, it discredits what the mother is saying, do, or the father. And at the end of the day, you don't want to do that. Or if you're giving advice in front of the grandparent, like, oh, that's my kid, don't do this, that, discredit what the grandparent saying, takes that power away from both. All parties involved, basically, it takes the power away. So I give a perfect example of this. So if you have a grandmother that's babysitting kids, and mom comes home from work and there's an issue and grandparents yelling at mom in front of the kids, what you just did is took mom's power away. So when something happens, that kid's gonna be like, well, grandma said I ain't doing it that way. And that can go vice versa.
Right.
What's your take on that?
For me, I understand everything that you just said. I agree about taking the power away and everything. And that's, once again, just setting healthy boundaries within those relationships.
Absolutely.
If the boundaries are not set within the parent and grandparent relationship, then it's definitely going to overflow into the child parent and child grandparent relationship. But once again, if that's something that has to be fixed prior to this or fixed outside of the interaction with the child,
Absolutely.
So just like Marasha said, try to not do those things in front of the child, or depending on the age of the child or the cognition of the child, if they're able to understand what's going on and you feel like that is a conversation you guys can all have, that is something that can be done as well, but not just with you guys. Once again, that's why we always say, if you guys need therapy, if your family is struggling with any of these things, contact your nearest provider so you can get help with these services so they can help navigate the situation.
Absolutely.
Because this is not something that you're going to fix overnight, number one. If you have issues, first of all, with your child, and the reason you giving advice to them or constructive criticism to them is harmful, it's probably because of the tension between your relationship. So once again, that's something that you guys have to work on before that engagement can even work. They're not going to take any information from you, whether it's beneficial to them or not, because your relationship is estranged. So, once again, it's always starting from the bottom and working down. Starting at the top and working down to the bottom.
And let me tell you this, I believe in what we do. I always said I believe in the work I do. Our relationships are fixable. Anything can be fixed. It's just progress at this point. And so I always said, even if you feel like, okay, I don't want to do it because I'm always right, think about what you got involved in and what's at stake, and it's the lives of your children, the outcome. When you're supporting people while raising them.
Right. Not only that, think about, what it's going to do for you.
Absolutely.
Because once you're happy, once you have everything that you need, you'll be able to give everything that your children need to them. Mm-hmm. So definitely.
And I always want to say this too. When you're villaging or when you're doing anything, even with kids, we can learn something sometimes from children. I like to ask for the honest opinion from my daughter because, we teach kids to lie. We give them filters. We tell them, hey, don't say that, things like that. We teach them to be filtered. Mm-hmm. If you really want to know something about yourself and your personality and things like that, you got kids around, ask them. Especially if you're babysitting, get a list, write it down. How do you see me as parenting? You can even get little toys, right? Barbie dolls, and say, can you show me how I parent you when you do something wrong? Like, okay, get a little play doll and say, when that doll is being bad, what should the mom and dad do? And the kids will show you everything you need to know about the way you are interacting with them. That's what I've realized. And so it's okay to ask the children around you. If they're old enough and they are developed, they have cognition, ask them. They will tell you.
Definitely.
And you have to be open without, sometimes you even have to laugh a little bit because they are imitators. They watch what we do and they actually, they do it. They're watching. They're like little sponges. So ask and they'll tell you how you parent. They'll tell you if you're mean. They'll tell you if you're nice. They'll tell you if you're loving. They will tell you.
Definitely.
And they also can see the tension between two people. But why y'all always yelling at each other? Give them the platform and the freedom to express how they feel. Ask questions, and you will find out a lot about you as a parent.
Yes. But not just that. I will say also, because you don't want to give them too much freedom. Don't misconstrue the things that are said today, because there is a such thing as children having too much freedom and being too vocal and being too articulate at certain ages. So,
well, that's called parentified child. I'm not saying parentified.
I'm not talking about a parentified child. I'm talking about a disrespectful child because the mother has given them the okay to.
I'm not saying
but I'm not talking about a parentified child. Parentified children definitely that's something as well. But I'm just talking about individuals that, it's just, there's always, once again, there's always a fine line. Yeah, there's always a fine line.
But I'm saying with boundaries, having a conversation with your kids, which does not happen in a lot of minority homes, about what your kids will like for you to see how you talk to them. Because if you're cussing at your kids or you always trying to control them, they are not going to be healthy. That statistics show that. So I'm not talking about the kid that's like cussing, or you letting him run down the street and cuss you out and call you the B word and punch you in the face and stuff. By any means, I'm talking about having that healthy dialogue where it's one-on-one. If you have harmed your child or your child has harmed you, you can have that conversation and say, hey, I don't like when you do A, B, C, and D. So right. There's a fine line between the two.
There definitely is. So last week we also talked about, what else did we talk about? We talked about the intrusive grandparents. We talked about individuals, a village, just like we just talked about. What else did we talk about last week?
I think we kind of covered this. This is a difficult topic too for everybody to talk about. Too. So I do, granted, that's why people can be viewing and not saying anything, because it is a difficult topic, especially if you have your own belief system. That's another thing that's going to play a huge role with how you interact here. Okay, I cannot see you guys. So hold on, let me see. Okay, so you're going to read that one, Linnell, then I read yours. Okay.
So she said, a village is other people, friend and family, watching out for your kids and making your children be obedient and understanding what they are doing is wrong. We always had someone in the neighborhood telling our mom that we were doing what we were doing, and mom always thanked them. But these days, moms get pissed off when their children are corrected by others. So what do? Look and say nothing for fear of being in a conflict with the parent when they know that their children are bad because of the thing.
You're right. Times have changed. Sometimes, I see that. I see that perspective too. When you say it's a village, sometimes people get offended because they don't want to stand in their truth about what's going on with their kids, and it does cause conflict when you go to tell them something. I completely agree. So you kind of want to be hands off of the whole situation. I've seen that too. Um, Trina said, my take on village, especially being from Louisiana, was everybody your parents came in contact with. If it was the nosy neighbor, the grocery store clerk, the regular mailman, whoever was present daily or encountered seeing your child doing good or bad, she's absolutely right. They had a say in what they experienced or seen your child doing. I got my butt whipped by the neighbor, my teachers. I was warned by the grocery store clerk, the mailman, when they seen me doing things I had no business doing, was scared. When? She right. It does take a village. And in this day, too. Now, how do I put this? There is a double-edged sword on on that too, having a village too. So let me say this. When I say double-edged swords, yeah, it takes a village, right? And you might have seen them every day, and when you did wrong, you did wrong. Now I have seen this in too. I'm gonna play devil's advocate too. With sometimes I've seen adults report things on children that are sometimes not accurate. So you do see why some parents are saying, no, I don't want the village of having a mailman or the clerk or store clerk or things like that. I'm talking about we're talking about more of a support where you know these people and you know the character of the people raising your children. So it can have a double standard rule on both ends. Okay, it says, as you can tell, I am not a G parent, but I do believe in punishing a child when it's needed. Well said from both of you ladies. When you have the support from a grandparent, you are truly blessed, or teaching or discipline may be different. So it's good to come into an agreement as to what is best for the child. Absolutely. So everybody has some input on there, and I like that. That's what we missed last week. We missed y'all. So when I speak of it, I agree both with everybody's comments on here. But like I said before, that is a double-edged sword. Now, what's your take on that? Because I don't know if you saw that, but I've seen that happen where it could be like the clerk and they said something that's not really that accurate. But I'm talking about the support system of knowing that person's character and integrity. I know I can leave both my kids with Linnell because she gonna be like, hey, so-and-so did this and this is what happened. Or I can leave them with my auntie, so-and-so did this and this what happened. But then I might not know that mailman down the street. And for all I know, the mailman could have some bias he carrying, could have something to just say, see my child, that might not be accurate. So right. There is a double-edged sword here. Linnell, what's your take on it?
I agree. I don't know if I would call it a double-edged sword, only because at that point, I feel like it's up to the parent to know their child.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if I would necessarily, you know what I mean, call it the double-edged sword in that.
I agree with that
aspect, because if you know your child, because I have people that I still trust with my child that I know will lie. I'm not saying lie, but exaggerate, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I know that they're not going to hurt my child.
Absolutely.
But they might exaggerate about what happened or blow it out of proportion. And I can put the pieces to the puzzle together because I know my child. And I can then say, okay, well, what happened? And she gonna tell me whatever happened. And then I'm like, okay, well, pretty much the stories are the same. It's just this little extra part. So I can, I
agree with that though too. I get that perspective.
Yeah, and not only that, once again, some individuals, they may be telling the truth, but it may not be something that you particularly care about. It may not be something that really they should be getting in trouble for, once again.
Absolutely.
Because that individual feels like it's something that's bad, but you don't feel like it's bad. So once again, it's all about
boundaries.
Yes, boundaries, but it's also about listening, I think, because a lot of people don't listen. All those other things aren't important if you don't listen.
Absolutely.
If you don't take the time out to calm down and listen to what the individual is telling you, that's your first mistake, because people, what their issue is they instantly get offended or upset. And so they stop listening. And so they start popping off before they even hear what happened, which once again, if they just listen to what happened, they may not even be upset at the end of the day. They may be like, oh, that's what happened. Okay, I'll talk to him. Okay, I apologize for that happening. You know, I apologize that you're offended by that. I'll talk to him. But when they go and talk to their child, they're like, okay, you did A, B, and C, and you don't do that at anybody else's house. You may do that at home, but you don't do that over here. You know, so once again, for me and my experiences as a parent and just as a child growing up and in the community, working with the community, I just feel like it's all about listening first. Because
in delivery,
no matter which position you're in, whether you're the parent, the grandparent, you're the person you giving the information or being solicited for that information, you just need to listen. And like you said, your delivery has to be a certain way.
Yeah,
because
so she said listening. So I caught that. I love that perspective that you have on that. I agree with that. I also think though too is the actual delivery of it. Mm-hmm. You always take in consideration that sometimes parents are like protectors of their children. Right. So when you go to tell them something, if you're coming off negatively off the door with being defensive and negative, and it's personalized, you might not get the response that you want. Mm-hmm. Now, if you came off with 2 positives and then that negative that your child did, I can guarantee you it will look a lot different in the conversation and dialogue that you can have with each other pertaining to what needs to be done or said to that child. As a parent, you never know what your child is doing when they are not in your sight. So parents, never stop asking your children questions. Who are your friends? Where are they going? With who? Please be a part of your children's life and their lifestyle. Amen to that. You are absolutely right. You are never there all the time. But that's why the importance of building character in your child so that they can have that dialogue with you. Even when you open up a little bit to them about who you are as a person and you ever have that dialogue, that opens the doors for them to come home and tell. A, B, C, and D happened. I was involved in it in this way. Before they hear from somebody else. Yeah. But delivery is a big thing when you're going to talk about somebody's child. Always remember that is somebody's kid. I know that I've run into an incident and I thought it was so funny where a child did make a mistake. And the first thing that person said when they did deliver it was that you need to whoop his ass. You went to that parent. You didn't say what the child did. You didn't say what happened and gave them a story. Your first thing is you need to whoop your child's ass. The mom became very offensive and she was upset. So she did. As Linnell said, she shut down immediately and she did not want to talk about it. And she just told her child, get your stuff and let's go. Now, had she might have came to her and said, hey, can I pull you aside? I would like to talk to you about something. Without the kids being there, this occurred today, A, B, C, D, and E, and this is what happened. This is what said. You know, I'm not telling you how to handle it, but I'm just telling you this is what happened. This was my experience with your child today. It might have been a different outcome.
Right. But definitely, I think that goes back to what I said in the beginning with communication. A lot of individuals don't know how to communicate effectively. And so if you don't know how to communicate effectively, then you're not even going to know what we're talking about right now. You're not going to know what we're talking about when we say delivery. I mean, Marasha just gave you an example, but you would not know even what we're talking about because you're not going to be able to understand the different communication styles. You're not even going to have the desire to communicate. And so once again, it all goes back to the parent skills, the grandparent skills, where you are in life and where you're willing to start to change. You know, and if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. But the individuals that are willing to do that need to step up and do that. And when certain individuals aren't willing to do that, you'll learn once you gain your skills how to navigate with those individuals, you know, because once you start to gain skills, once you start to become educated, you're going to move differently and you're going to be able to engage with people differently. And they're going to see, and some of them will mimic you and follow suit.
Absolutely.
And, that will be your village right there. Those will be the individuals that you want to continue to engage with because you guys will learn from one another. What did you say?
she said, yes, listen, please. I was the one who didn't listen to my child. I didn't give her a chance to explain herself. And as time went by, I learned to listen because she went to other family members who approached me about the situation. So, yes, listen. Nicole Garcia. Hi, Nicole. How are you? I grew up where my parents spoke, and that was that. There was no such thing as actively listening. I have raised my children to care more about their emotional intelligence than their IQ. I am raising children to regulate their emotions, and this needs to be taught to adults and children.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's what I was saying. That's what I'm saying.
She's talking about.
Yeah, because if once again, the parents or the grandparents don't have these tools, the children aren't going to be able to they're going to learn them in school, hopefully, if there are individuals who are teaching them. But a lot of the time, there are not, I'm not going to say a lot of the time, let me not say that, but in a lot of schools, there aren't a lot of individuals that truly care. So these things aren't always being taught. There is, 1 out of 10 that are trying to teach it, but they have so many children that they're teaching that, they may not get to everybody. So it's difficult for people to learn these skills outside of these spaces. So once again, it's up to us to either look for someone who's going to teach us these things or engage with individuals that have these desires or these, wants, the same morals and values, the same integrity that you are trying to gain. So you can learn from these people and they'll point you in the right direction and you'll find that you're in those spaces more.
School culture today is dangerous, and that's another topic. So when we do that topic, Nicole, we gonna want you to be present. So she's right, but I won't talk about it. But the viewers can. So when I always ask myself this, and this is just from my personal experience here, is that when somebody is telling me something before I react, because for every action there is a reaction, right? And I always tell myself that for every action there is a reaction. So if something is going on, I always ask myself, well, should I react to this? I ask myself, how should I respond? And part of that is not becoming upset, because when you become upset, you're not able to breathe and no oxygen is going to your brain for you to be able to think of a clear and concise answer. So I sit back for a couple of minutes and I actually think about it and then respond. So I think if a lot of people did that more in their communication style, they would have a chance to respond appropriately, because sometimes we don't listen to respond. How do you say it? You don't listen. What is the saying? You're not listening to respond. You're listening to react. You're not listening to respond. You're listening to just, what is it called? You're not hearing nothing. You're just listening. Right. But you have to listen to be able to respond. Mm-hmm. So that means you have to sit and think on it. Right. If I'm talking,
you have to be able to process the information.
Absolutely.
To know what's going on. So the first thing is, retaining the information so you can process it. You can't retain the information if you're not being quiet and listening. And once again, that's a lot of the problem that we have. We start talking and we don't listen to what someone is saying. And so that is what hinders our process.
Or we get mad and we start yelling, because sometimes it can be cultural in the belief system in some families that the louder you are, you won the argument. But that's not necessarily true. It's not about who's louder. It's about getting points across. And sometimes that can be a cultural thing in your communication style. So it's important to, I believe there is a communication style test online, right? We can put that in the link. So you can see how you communicate. Tamika Williams, I have learned this step from a great teacher. E plus R equals O. Hey, I like that. I know that one. Event, response, outcome. I am responsible how I do all three.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a CBT model, cognitive behavioral therapy model, where you have a thought, you have a reaction. That's part of a CBT model. So that's very interesting that a teacher is teaching that. That's awesome to hear.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So once again, like Tamika is showing, it starts with the parents. If the parents don't know better, they can't do better. I know I say that every week. You guys know that's my favorite saying. I'm going to continue to say it, because if we don't know better, we can't do better. And a lot of people don't want to know anything different and feel like they already know everything right now. And so that's why they can't grow. So if you don't know, you can't grow. So once again, we were, I guess we're going to start to wrap it up. We see that you guys, we really, really appreciate all the, engagement that we had today. We missed that last week. That's why we wanted to come back and bring this topic up again, because we wanted to make sure that you guys knew that you're important. You're the reason why we come on here every week. You're the reason why we pick these topics, because we want to make sure that if you guys need information on something, if you're confused about something, if you want more clarity and we can help you on these things, that you have a safe space, a non-judgmental space where you can do that, where we can have these conversations, where you can kind of do your research. And then after we're done, you can go out and do it by yourself and get more information, And I lost my thought right there. I don't even know what I was.
We want you guys to continue to be open-minded. The goal here for us is to be informative, interchange. Which, as we're doing this show, we're growing. By the way, we're in many different transitional phases in our lives right now, and so we want to see you guys grow, to be open-minded, to have some type of awareness. I don't, like Linnell and I like to say, we don't say competent, because we don't think nobody can know really everything. To be aware of things. And be aware who you are when communicating. Be open to a little constructive criticism, because sometimes people get in their own way when they say, I know everything, you can't tell me anything, but that's not true. So we all have to be open and learning and receptive to everything.
Right. And so in the beginning of the show, I know we always normally give you guys the suicide prevention lifeline, the crisis lifeline, and the text line. We didn't do that today. So I wanted to make sure I carved out some time in the end to do that. So we want to make sure that you guys have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number is 800-273-8255. And the text line, which is 741-741. So if you're struggling with any mental health issues, if you need someone to talk to and you don't have anyone, in your immediate support system, you definitely can either call this line or text this line, and they will listen to you so you can get the support you need. Also, for the Kern County Crisis Hotline, the number is 800-991-5272. So if you're in Kern County and you need assistance, you can dial this number. Also, if you're in California, you can dial 211.
Biggest resource and within California. That's what I found out. We were researching 211 for everybody in California.
It is. So definitely you can call that and they will direct you to any information you may need. And also they have a new LGBTQ plus text line, which is 678-678. That's from Trevor Text. And they also have Trevor Space, which is a social media platform that they have right now. So if you are looking for spaces that you can go to, if you're from the LGBTQ plus community, these are your resources. So you can feel supported and have that ear for you as well. Tamika says, stay teachable. Definitely. You want to always stay teachable. Nobody knows everything. There's a lot of people out today thinking they know everything, and that's where their downfall is. Don't feel like you know everything, because nobody knows everything.
And it's not just listening, it's knowing your child. Some parents know their child's in terror. You and Alice, we know. Some they know their child is in terror and still don't want to hear it. You tell them anything about them parents know your child, then you want to get upset so easily. That is true too. That's why
once again, it is listening. That parent is not listening to you because they don't want to hear what you have to say. So definitely, yes, it starts with listening. It starts with communication. It starts with wanting to hear and wanting to change. Because if you don't want to change and you don't want to see better for your children, or you don't want better, then definitely you're not going to be in that listening stage. Chris said,
Christy said, love it. I have a blessed day, beautiful ladies, and enjoy your long weekend.
Let's see. Happy 3-day weekend to you guys as well. I want you guys to have a safe and blessed weekend as well. thank you for coming and engaging with us this week, you guys. You know where you can meet us next week, same time, same place. And yes, Bree said uncorrected.
Uncorrected. Well, what she says, you got to know your child and get them the help when they need it. It only gets worse the longer it gets corrected. Uncorrected.
Okay.
Uncorrected.
Okay. Yes, yes.
And I want to say this: like, follow, share. Like, follow, share. Thank you for supporting us. Every Saturday, you guys give me a reason to get on here. I'm not gonna lie. Some Saturdays I don't want to do it, but then I get here at 10, and then I'm like, hey, I'm having fun. It's engagement. Thank you guys for being so supportive. Like, follow, share.
Yes.
DM us anything you want to know. Like if you have questions or if you feel you have topics for the show, something you want to know about and talk about, let us know, and we will bring it here and talk about it Saturday morning at 10 a.m. So we would like to see you here next week. I love all you guys, and thanks for following.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.